I always thought I had a perfect life. My name is Matt, I'm in my late 30s and have been married to Amy for over a decade. We met during college and the chemistry we had was undeniable. We built a life together complete with our charming little house, a dog named Max, and dreams of a family. Sure, we had our ups and downs, who does? But overall, I believed we were solid. That is, until the cracks started showing. At first, the signs were subtle. Amy became less interested in our usual weekend activities. The casual dinner dates we used to enjoy turned into long hours at work, followed by her needing to meet friends for drinks. She said it was just the stress of work, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Then came the little lies. "I'm just going to the gym," turned into "I'll be home late," and I found myself alone more often than not. One day when I was cleaning out the garage, I came across an old box of Amy's stuff. Inside, I found a few discarded items, an old phone charger, a forgotten scarf. But as I dug deeper, I uncovered something more sinister, a receipt from a fancy hotel, one I knew she had never mentioned. It was several months old, but my heart sank. Why would she need to go to a hotel without telling me? My stomach twisted into knots as I confronted myself with the possibility that my wife was cheating on me. Later that week, I decided to confront her. We sat in the living room, and I was trembling with a mix of anger and heartbreak. "Amy, we need to talk," I started, trying to keep my voice steady. Her eyes darted around, and I could see her assessing the situation. She took a deep breath, and I continued, "I found something while cleaning, a hotel receipt. Care to explain?" Her reaction was something I had never anticipated. Instead of the guilt or shame I expected to see, Amy laughed it off. "Oh, it was for a work conference. I told you about it." Her tone dripped with sarcasm, and I felt my blood begin to boil. I pushed, "No, you didn't. This isn't about a conference, Amy. Just tell me the truth." What followed was a performance I could hardly believe. She spun elaborate tales about late-night meetings and how I was imagining things. I wanted to believe her, but the evidence was stacking up against her like a tower of cards. As she continued to weave her web of lies, I felt my heart breaking a little more with each word. I had trusted her with everything, and in return I was met with deceit. As the days turned into weeks, I went through an emotional roller coaster. I felt betrayed, angry, and deeply hurt. I would wake up at night, staring at the ceiling, imagining her with someone else. The shocking realization that the woman I had loved so deeply was capable of such betrayal consumed me. The love I had once felt for her started to fester into resentment. I tried to focus on work, on keeping my mind occupied, but the painful reality was always lurking in the background. On some days, I would catch myself daydreaming about how I once admired her smile, the way she laughed, and the plans we had made together. But then the stark reality would hit me like a wave. I was living with a stranger, a woman who had lied to my face. After weeks of agony, I knew I had to make a decision. I could either confront her again or start plotting my next steps. It was not an easy choice, but I couldn't keep living in this limbo. I needed clarity, a direction to move forward. What would I do? Would I fight for my marriage, or was it time to sever the ties that had once felt so unbreakable? I decided to take a different approach. Instead of focusing on her, I turned my attention to myself. I wanted to reclaim my happiness, my identity, and my life. It was then I had an idea that would change everything. I realized that if she didn't want to be part of my life anymore, I could create something beautiful out of the pain. I started to plan my revenge. I would build the garden I had always dreamed of, a paradise right in our backyard, a place where I could find solace and peace away from the betrayal. But I would make sure that she never stepped foot in it. I wanted her to see what she had thrown away. It was time to transform my pain into something magnificent. In the coming weeks, I would turn this heartbreak into a new beginning, one that would both haunt Amy and give me a renewed sense of purpose. I dove headfirst into my plan. The more I thought about it, the more excited I became. I wasn't just going to build a simple garden. I envisioned a stunning retreat filled with vibrant flowers, lush greenery, and a tranquil water feature. It would be a sanctuary that captured the essence of everything Amy had neglected in our relationship. I wanted it to be a space of beauty that highlighted the stark contrast to the ugliness of her betrayal. I started researching garden designs online, looking for inspiration. I found designs that featured tropical plants, koi ponds, and intricate stone pathways. I pictured myself sitting in the space, breathing in the fragrant blooms while drinking coffee in the morning sun. It would be my escape, a reminder of my strength and resilience. Then came the practical part. I needed help. I couldn't do this alone, especially since I wanted it to be perfect. I reached out to local landscapers, and it was during this search that I met Tom. He was the owner of a small landscaping business and had a passion for creating beautiful outdoor spaces. I explained my vision to him, and he was immediately on board, brimming with ideas to make it even better than I had imagined. As we started working together, Tom and I grew closer. He was easy to talk to and shared my passion for landscaping. I found myself opening up, sharing bits about my life and the heartbreak I was trying to mend. He listened intently, never passing judgment, and offered a comforting perspective. It was refreshing to have someone in my corner who understood the pain of betrayal. While we worked, the physical labor became a welcome distraction from my emotional turmoil. I spent evenings shoveling dirt, planting flowers, and laying stones. With each shovel of dirt, I could almost feel the weight of my heartbreak lifting. I was transforming my pain into something beautiful, and it felt empowering. The garden began to take shape, with vibrant colors sprouting up all around me. However, as the weeks went by, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread whenever I saw Amy come home. She had started to notice the changes in the backyard, and she would often ask questions. "What are you doing back there, Matt?" She would inquire, feigning interest, but I could see through her facade. I would respond nonchalantly, "Oh, just making some improvements." The truth was, I wanted to keep the details of my project a secret. I wanted the garden to be a surprise, a final statement of my resilience. One evening, Amy came home unusually cheerful. She walked straight into the kitchen and poured herself a glass of wine, completely ignoring my presence. It was like I was invisible. I watched her from across the room, a storm of emotions brewing within me. I wanted to confront her, to ask about the lies, the deceit, but I held back. Why give her the satisfaction of seeing me vulnerable when I was busy building my paradise? "Matt, do you think we could go out for dinner tonight?" she asked, her voice syrupy sweet. I could sense she was trying to smooth things over, but I wasn't in the mood for her charm. "Why? So you can tell me more lies over a candle-lit dinner?" I shot back, my resentment bubbling to the surface. Her smile faltered, and for a brief moment I could see a flicker of panic in her eyes. "What do you mean?" she asked, feigning innocence. "I'm just trying to do something nice for us." "Nice? You think going out to dinner will fix everything? You think it will erase the pain you've caused?" I couldn't hold back any longer. The confrontation I had avoided for weeks was finally coming to a head. Her defensiveness kicked in, and she sneered. "You're being ridiculous, Matt. You're overreacting." "Overreacting? You've been lying to me for months. I deserve better than this," I replied, anger seeping through my words. For a moment we stood there in silence, the tension thick enough to slice with a knife. Amy rolled her eyes and stormed out of the kitchen, mumbling under her breath. I was left standing there, seething. I realized then that I didn't want her back. I didn't want to go back to the way things were, not after everything. The next day, as I was working in the garden, I could hear the sounds of laughter coming from inside the house. I paused for a moment, wiping the sweat off my brow, and listened carefully. It was Amy on the phone, her giggles ringing out like bells. I felt a fire ignite in my chest, and I couldn't help but feel a surge of jealousy. Who was she laughing with? Who was making her so happy when I was the one she had betrayed? That evening, I pretended to be busy working on the garden when she came back home. I wanted to avoid any confrontation. I buried myself in the tasks at hand. As I dug into the soil, I imagined planting not only flowers but also seeds of my own independence and healing. The garden was beginning to blossom, both literally and metaphorically. It wasn't just an escape from my home life. It became a symbol of my resilience against the betrayal I had endured. I felt stronger with each flower planted, each stone laid. I was reclaiming my space, and Amy was unwittingly pushing me further into my own personal paradise. Every inch of the garden came to represent my journey, from betrayal to self-discovery. I was transforming pain into beauty. Little did Amy know, she was walking into a world that would soon be all mine, a world she would never be a part of again. But I had to be patient. My plan was still in motion, and I was determined to see it through. I could feel the tides shifting, and I wasn't just preparing to build a garden. I was preparing to reclaim my life. As the garden continued to flourish, so did my resolve. Each day, I found myself pouring more energy into my new sanctuary. I had Tom working alongside me, and he was as invested in the project as I was. It was a welcome distraction from Amy's increasing detachment, which had become a constant in my life. The subtle changes in her behavior were hard to ignore. She was often on her phone, texting or laughing with someone I didn't know. My gut told me it was someone else, and the thought made my heart race with anger and betrayal. One afternoon, while I was planting some new hydrangeas, I heard the distinct sound of laughter behind me. I turned to see Amy in the kitchen, her back to me, talking animatedly on the phone. My heart sank as I listened closely. She was discussing plans for a weekend getaway. My mind raced with 1,000 questions. Who was she going with? Was it the same person she had been texting? The toxic mix of jealousy and betrayal simmered just below the surface. I wanted to storm into the kitchen and demand answers, but I forced myself to stay calm. Instead, I decided to focus on the garden, burying my feelings deep down. I was determined not to let her actions derail my progress. I was building something beautiful, a space that would one day become my refuge. My garden became my therapy, and with every plant I nurtured, I felt a little more in control of my own life. That weekend, I felt particularly motivated to make the garden even more special. I decided it needed a centerpiece, a beautiful fountain that would act as the focal point of my paradise. I reached out to Tom, and together, we designed a stone fountain that would provide a soothing sound of water trickling down. It was a labor-intensive project, but with each day that passed, I felt a sense of pride swelling within me. As we worked, Tom shared stories of his own heartbreak. He had been through a nasty divorce and had learned the hard way about trust and betrayal. Listening to him helped me put my own situation into perspective. I realized that I wasn't alone in my pain. Many people went through similar experiences. We shared our struggles openly, and I felt a bond forming between us. He was not just a landscaper to me anymore. He was a friend, someone who understood what it felt like to be betrayed. Meanwhile, Amy continued her charade. She would come home late and act as if nothing was wrong. I could sense her guilt, but she masked it well with feigned indifference. One night she asked me, "Matt, do you think we should take a vacation together? It could be good for us." I looked at her, trying to gauge her sincerity. Did she really want to salvage our relationship, or was this just another tactic to appease me? "I don't know, Amy. Maybe you should take your next vacation with your friends," I replied sarcastically, my voice dripping with disdain. Her face fell, and for a moment I felt a flicker of remorse. I didn't want to hurt her, but I was tired of her lies. I was tired of pretending everything was okay. Despite my feelings of anger, I knew I was on the road to reclaiming my life, and it no longer included her. The garden was nearing completion, and I had plans to unveil it in a way that would leave a lasting impact on Amy. I wanted her to see what she had lost, the beauty she could have shared if she hadn't chosen betrayal. The day I finished the fountain, I could hardly contain my excitement. It was everything I had envisioned, a stunning centerpiece that reflected my hard work and dedication. That evening, I invited her outside under the pretense of wanting to show her something. As we stepped into the backyard, I could see her taking in the transformation. The flowers were in full bloom, colors vibrant against the backdrop of the lush greenery. The fountain bubbled merrily, and the sound was soothing, almost enchanting. I stood back, waiting for her reaction. What did you do?" She stammered, shock evident in her voice. "This is incredible." "Yeah, I thought I'd do something different with my time," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. "I wanted a space where I could find peace, especially since you seem to have found other places to spend your time." She turned to face me, confusion mixed with anger on her face. Matt, don't do this. You're twisting everything I say. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Am I, or am I just reacting to the reality you've created? I'm done pretending to be happy in a relationship where I'm constantly questioning everything. You've lost my trust, Amy. Her face flushed with anger. You're being unreasonable. I'm trying to make this work. You just don't see it. I couldn't believe her audacity. Trying. You've been lying to me while planning weekend getaways and spending time with someone else. How is that trying? The tension in the air was palpable, and for a moment I thought she might break down and confess. Instead, she crossed her arms defensively and huffed. You're impossible. You'll never understand. Understand what? That you've betrayed me and expect me to just roll over and accept it. No, I won't do that. I could see her resolve beginning to crack, her facade of confidence faltering. I never meant for things to get this out of hand, she muttered, almost as if she were talking to herself. Then why did you let it? I shot back. Why didn't you just talk to me? I would have listened, but you chose to go behind my back instead. With that, I turned away from her and walked toward the fountain. I needed to distance myself from the anger brewing inside me. I was proud of what I had created, and I wouldn't let her taint it any further. The garden symbolized my journey toward healing, a contrast to the chaos of our relationship. I could see her standing there, mouth agape, struggling to find the words to respond. But I didn't want to hear more lies. I had given her enough chances, and it was time to focus on my own happiness. With each passing day, I was reclaiming my life, one beautiful flower at a time. In that moment, I made a silent vow to myself. I would continue to nurture my garden and my spirit. I wouldn't let her betrayal define me. Instead, I would grow stronger and build a life that brought me joy, no matter where that journey took me. In the days that followed, the tension between Amy and me hung thick in the air like a fog that wouldn't clear. I had revealed my truth, and while it felt liberating to speak my mind, it also opened the floodgates to a different kind of emotional turmoil. I had laid bare the cracks in our marriage, and yet Amy continued to play the victim, insisting I was the unreasonable one. It was infuriating, to say the least. The garden, however, continued to flourish. Each day, I spent hours outside, tending to my plants, watering them, and rearranging rocks and stones to create the perfect pathways. I felt a sense of purpose that had long been missing in my life. Instead of being clouded by the betrayal, I was now focused on something tangible, something I could control. The beauty that surrounded me served as a constant reminder that I was capable of creating joy amidst chaos. One afternoon, while I was planting some lavender, I could hear Amy inside, pacing back and forth, her voice raised in another phone call. I tried my best to ignore it, but the sound of her laughter and the warmth in her tone made my stomach churn. I felt a surge of jealousy rise within me once more. Who was she talking to? Why was she so comfortable laughing with someone else while I was out here, dismantling the ruins of our marriage? The next day, I decided to take a break from the garden. I needed a change of scenery, a chance to gather my thoughts. I headed over to the local cafe, where I often went to grab a coffee and unwind. It was a small, cozy place filled with the chatter of patrons and the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee. As I sipped my drink, I felt a wave of clarity wash over me. I had spent too long wallowing in the pain of betrayal, and it was time to focus on my own happiness. That's when I noticed a flyer on the bulletin board. A local gardening club was hosting a weekly meetup for people interested in landscaping and garden design. I felt a spark of excitement. This could be a great way to connect with others who shared my passion, and maybe even learn a few new skills. I took a picture of the flyer and decided to check it out. When I returned home, I felt invigorated. I told Amy about the club, hoping to elicit some enthusiasm, but her response was lackluster at best. Sounds fine, I guess. She shrugged, brushing it off as if it were unimportant. Her dismissiveness stung, but I shook it off. I had to remember that I was no longer obligated to seek her validation. The following week, I attended my first gardening club meeting. I walked into a room filled with people of all ages, each passionate about creating beautiful outdoor spaces. It felt refreshing to be among others who understood my journey. I found myself chatting with several members, sharing ideas, and even picking up a few tips on how to make my garden even more inviting. As I immersed myself in this new community, I found myself growing more confident. I started sharing my own journey, how I was using gardening as a means of healing from heartbreak. The support I received was overwhelming. These strangers became a source of encouragement, reminding me that I was not alone in my struggles. They celebrated my garden's progress as if it were their own, and it filled me with pride. In contrast, Amy's demeanor continued to shift. She seemed increasingly distant, spending more time on her phone and less time engaging with me. It became clear that she was still hiding something, and every time I saw her laughing or smiling at her screen, a knot tightened in my stomach. I knew I had to confront her again, but I wasn't sure how to approach it without spiraling back into the chaos of our past. One evening, as I prepared dinner, I caught her lying on the couch, scrolling through her phone. I took a deep breath and decided to take the plunge. "Amy, can we talk?" I asked cautiously. She groaned. "Can't it wait until after dinner? I'm kind of busy." I felt the frustration bubbling up again, but I held my ground. "No, it can't wait. I need to know what's going on with you. You've been acting differently for weeks now." She set her phone down, rolling her eyes. "Matt, I'm just busy with work." "You're overreacting again." "Busy with what? You're always on your phone, laughing and making plans. I can't help but wonder who's on the other end," I pressed, refusing to back down. "Who is it, Amy? Who are you spending all this time with?" The words spilled out before I could stop them, raw and filled with hurt. She looked at me, her expression shifting from annoyance to something that resembled guilt. "It's just a friend from work, okay? Nothing to be concerned about. Just a friend. Is that why you've been sneaking around? Because you don't want me to know?" My heart raced as I confronted her. I could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. "Matt, stop. You're making this way worse than it is," she shot back defensively. I was at my breaking point. "Worse? You've been lying to me for months. Just tell me the truth. Are you cheating on me?" She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. I could see her weighing her options, deciding whether to continue the charade or finally come clean. "No, I'm not cheating," she finally said, but I could hear the hesitation in her voice. "Then what is it?" "Because I can't keep doing this, Amy. I deserve honesty, even if it hurts." After a long silence, she replied, "I just don't know how to fix this. I feel trapped and I'm scared." "Scared of what? Losing me, or scared of being honest about what's really going on?" I pressed, wanting to get to the root of her fears. "I don't know," she snapped, her voice rising. "I just want things to be normal again, but it's not that simple." "Normal? You mean the way things used to be? The lies, the deceit?" "That isn't normal, Amy," I shot back, frustration boiling over. "I'm not asking for perfection, but I deserve a partner who respects me and tells me the truth." She looked away, tears brimming in her eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you, Matt. I don't know how we got here." I softened slightly, but the anger still simmered beneath the surface. "Then show me. Show me that you want this to work. Be honest with me. All I want is for you to take responsibility for your actions." After what felt like an eternity, Amy finally nodded, her expression vulnerable. "Okay, I'll try. I'll tell you the truth from now on, I promise." It felt like a turning point, but I wasn't naive enough to believe her completely. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. I needed to see action, not just hear hollow promises. As I walked back into the kitchen to finish dinner, I realized that the garden was my true sanctuary. It was a place where I could retreat, a space that represented my journey of healing. The confrontation with Amy had been tough, and the uncertainty still loomed overhead, but I felt stronger knowing that I was taking back control of my life. The garden was blooming beautifully, a testament to my resilience. It was my escape, my reminder that I was capable of creating beauty from the pain of betrayal. I would continue to nurture my garden and myself, no matter what the future held. In that moment, I committed to focusing on my own healing, allowing the garden to flourish as a representation of my journey. No matter what Amy chose, I would emerge stronger, more self-assured, and ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. As the days turned into weeks, the tension between Amy and me ebbed and flowed. We managed to have more conversations, albeit awkward ones, where she would try to reassure me of her commitment to honesty. Some days felt heavier than others, and I often found myself retreating to the garden, the only place where I felt a sense of peace amidst the chaos. Tom continued to help me with the garden, and as we worked I shared my frustrations about my marriage. He listened patiently, offering advice and humor to lighten the mood. "You're doing a great job, Matt," he'd say while planting new bulbs. "Whatever happens with Amy, just remember you're building something beautiful for yourself." Those words resonated with me. I was no longer just creating a garden. I was cultivating a new version of myself, one that was strong and resilient. However, a part of me still wondered if I could ever trust Amy again. Each time I saw her on the phone, laughing or whispering, that familiar knot of jealousy tightened in my gut. It felt like a cycle, one that I was desperate to break. One Saturday afternoon, I decided to surprise Amy by cooking a nice dinner. I wanted to show her that I still cared, that I was willing to fight for our relationship even in the face of betrayal. As I prepared the meal, I could hear her in the living room talking animatedly on the phone. My heart sank as I wondered who she was talking to this time. After a while, I called her into the kitchen. "Dinner is ready," I announced with forced enthusiasm. She entered, her smile fading slightly as she caught sight of the spread I had prepared. "Wow, this looks great, Matt," she said, but I could sense the hesitation in her voice. "Thank you," I replied, trying to shake off the unease. "I thought we could use a nice night in together." As we sat down to eat, I tried to keep the conversation light. We talked about the garden, and I shared my hopes for what I wanted to do next. Yet her mind seemed elsewhere, and I couldn't help but feel like I was talking to a wall. It was frustrating, and I desperately wanted to know what was going on behind those closed doors. "Is everything okay?" I finally asked, looking straight at her. "You seem distant lately." She hesitated, her fork pausing midair. "I'm just stressed," she finally admitted, but I could tell there was more she was holding back. "What's really going on, Amy? You can talk to me." I felt a flicker of hope that maybe tonight would be the night she opened up. "I don't know how to put it into words. I feel overwhelmed and I don't know how to fix things between us," she confessed, her eyes downcast. "I'm scared of losing you, but I also don't want to keep pretending." I reached out, taking her hand gently. "The first step to fixing things is honesty, remember. You need to tell me what's really bothering you." Her breath caught and I could see the conflict in her eyes. "I'm just not sure if we can go back to how things were. I don't want to hurt you again, Matt. I can't bear the thought of doing that." I nodded, trying to absorb her words. "I don't expect us to go back to what we had overnight. Trust takes time to rebuild, but we have to meet each other halfway." She looked up, meeting my gaze. "I know that, and I want to try, I really do, but I still feel like there's something you don't know." My heart raced as a sense of dread washed over me. "What do you mean?" "I've been talking to someone at work. It's not what you think, but it's complicated," she started, and I braced myself for the truth. "Complicated how?" I pressed, my pulse quickening. "It's just that I've been venting to him about how I feel trapped. I thought it was harmless at first, but now I'm questioning everything." "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she blurted out, her voice quaking. I felt the ground shift beneath me. "So you've been confiding in another man. Is that what you meant by complicated?" I couldn't hide the hurt that crept into my voice. "It didn't mean anything, I swear. I was just looking for someone to talk to, someone who could relate to how I was feeling," she pleaded, panic flashing across her face. "You don't get to use that as an excuse, Amy," I said, my heart racing. "You're not making this any easier. You're still hiding things from me. You didn't tell me you were talking to someone else." "I know I messed up, but I never crossed that line. We're just friends," she insisted, her voice rising. "Friends, is that what you call it? You've been telling him everything about us. How is that fair to me?" I shot back, my patience waning. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this." She sounded desperate, and I could see the tears welling up in her eyes. "I just feel so lost, and I thought maybe talking to someone else would help me figure things out." I put my head in my hands, overwhelmed by the betrayal. "You need to understand that this isn't just about you, Amy. You've hurt me, and I'm struggling to process it. I thought we could start rebuilding something, but now it feels like we're back at square one." As the silence settled between us, I felt the weight of our reality crashing down on me. I had wanted to believe in her, to believe that we could fix our marriage, but with each revelation, the cracks deepened. The garden, once a space of healing, now felt tainted by the shadow of our broken relationship. "I can't keep living like this," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "I need time to think. I don't know if this can work anymore." As I stepped outside, the cool night air hit my face and I took a deep breath, trying to ground myself. I walked toward the garden, the moonlight illuminating the flowers that had begun to bloom with vibrant color. But instead of feeling pride, a sense of despair washed over me. I sat on the bench I had built, gazing at the fountain, the water glistening under the stars. I thought of how much effort I had put into creating this space, how it had become a refuge for my soul amid chaos. But now, it felt tainted, the reminders of betrayal creeping in like weeds threatening to choke the beauty I had built. In that moment, I realized I had a choice to make. I could either continue to fight for a relationship that felt increasingly fragile, or I could focus on nurturing my own growth. The garden had become a symbol of my journey, a place where I could reclaim my happiness, regardless of what Amy chose. As I looked around at the blooming flowers, I felt a surge of determination. I wouldn't allow her actions to dictate my worth. I would continue to cultivate beauty in my life, even if it meant leaving the storm of our marriage behind. I would let the garden flourish, embodying my strength and resilience, regardless of what lay ahead. The next morning, I would wake up ready to face whatever came next, with or without Amy at my side. The garden had become my sanctuary, and I was determined to make it a place of renewal and hope, a reflection of the new life I was ready to embrace. Morning light poured through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow over the breakfast table. I found myself sitting there, staring at my half-eaten toast, lost in thought. The weight of the previous night's conversation with Amy hung heavily in the air. I had a decision to make, and it wasn't going to be easy. After breakfast, I decided to head out to the garden, seeking solace among the blooms that had become my sanctuary. As I walked among the flowers, I realized how much I had grown through this process. Each plant represented a piece of my journey, a testament to my strength and resilience. I was no longer the man who had felt trapped in a loveless marriage. I had reclaimed my identity. I took a moment to appreciate the beauty I had created. The vibrant colors of the flowers danced in the gentle breeze, and the sound of the fountain trickling water was soothing to my soul. This garden was a reflection of me, beautiful, complex, and still blossoming despite the adversity. While I was lost in thought, I heard the back door creak open behind me. I turned to see Amy stepping outside, her expression uncertain. She looked around at the garden, and I could see a mix of admiration and sadness in her eyes. "Matt," she began hesitantly, "can we talk?" I nodded, keeping my emotions in check. "Yeah, we should." She walked towards me, her gaze falling on the flowers as if searching for words among their beauty. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she said finally, her voice steady but soft. "About us, about everything. I know I've hurt you and I want to take responsibility for that." I folded my arms and listened, trying to gauge her sincerity. "Okay. I realize that I've been selfish. I've been using this other person as a crutch, thinking it would help me process my feelings when all it did was complicate things further. I don't want to lose you, Matt. I want to try to make this work, but I need to be honest with you." Her words struck a chord deep within me. "Honesty is a good start, Amy, but it has to be more than just words. Actions speak louder." "I understand," she replied earnestly. "I want to show you I can change. I need to be transparent, and that means cutting off communication with him completely. It's time to focus on us." The knot in my stomach eased slightly. I could sense her desperation to make things right, but I still felt cautious. "And what about the trust that's been broken?" I asked, my voice firm. "How do you plan to rebuild that?" "I'll do whatever it takes. I'll go to therapy, I'll talk to you more openly, and I'll show you through my actions that you're my priority. I don't want to lose the man I love over my mistakes," she said, her eyes pleading. As I looked into her eyes, I felt a flicker of the love I once had for her, but I also knew I needed to protect myself. "Amy, I'm willing to consider it, but it will take time. I can't promise to forget what happened overnight." "I know," she said softly, "but I'm committed to earning your trust back, one step at a time." I took a deep breath, fighting against the mix of hope and fear that threatened to overwhelm me. "Then let's start with honesty. If we're going to rebuild, we both have to be open about our feelings and fears. As we discussed our expectations and concerns, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. It was a small step, but it was a step in the right direction. While I wasn't ready to fully embrace the idea of reconciliation, I felt hopeful. We were both willing to work on our relationship, and that was worth acknowledging. In the days that followed, Amy began making changes. She stopped talking to the other man and dedicated herself to being more present in our relationship. We had long conversations, often sitting in the garden surrounded by the flowers that symbolized our growth. She shared her fears and insecurities, and I reciprocated, allowing her to see the depth of my hurt. Slowly but surely, the cracks in our relationship began to mend. It wasn't a linear process. There were days of uncertainty and moments of doubt. But we both committed to nurturing each other, just as I had nurtured my garden. Each flower that bloomed reminded me of the effort we were both putting in. I found myself spending more time in the garden, using it as a therapeutic space to reflect and recharge. I continued to attend the gardening club, finding joy in the community I had built there. I felt empowered, knowing that I could create beauty in my life, regardless of the relationship I had with Amy. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow over the garden, I stood at the fountain, watching the water cascade down. It was peaceful, and I felt a sense of calmness envelop me. I turned to find Amy approaching, a soft smile on her face. "Look at this place," she said, taking in the beauty that surrounded us. "You've created something incredible here. It's more than just a garden, it's a representation of my journey," I replied, "and it's a reminder that I can find joy no matter what." She stepped closer, her eyes shining with sincerity. "I want to be part of your journey, Matt. I want us to grow together." I smiled, knowing that we still had a long way to go, but for the first time in a while I felt hopeful. "Then let's do that together." As we stood side by side, I realized that while our relationship had been tested, it had also given us a chance to rebuild something stronger. I had learned the importance of self-worth and the power of vulnerability, and it felt liberating. In the end, I chose to embrace the unknown, knowing that I was no longer defined by the betrayal, but rather by my ability to rise above it. The garden would always be a symbol of transformation, serving as a reminder of the beauty that can emerge from pain. And now, it was a place where both of us could nurture our love and grow together, step by step, bloom by bloom.